It's still a game.
It is. So we'll go. No, I got nothing. I have nothing for this one. Her name's tough. I've been stewing on it for a while. Is that good?
That works. Let's just go with it.
Jeez.
I'm just going to leave that in.
No.
Hi, and welcome to Behind the Hype with me, your host, as always, Brian Dressel. With me, as always, is Chewy Darso.
Hi.
And Jonathan Hardesty.
Who boy?
Stewart.
Eve Stewart is a surprisingly hard name to come up with a gimmicky way to intro a show.
That isn't slightly insulting, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to insult her. I'm a pretty big fan, as a matter of fact. So I'm just
Yeah.
like,
She's quite the accomplished production designer.
she is the best version of more is more. Shut up about your less is more. So here we are in the month of September, studying a production designer, Miss Eve Stewart, of famed films such as Les Miserables, King's Speech, Danish Girl, Cure for Wellness, countless others. I mean, I'm sure you can count them, but
Becoming Jane.
Becoming Jane, sure, that's one of them. Yeah, really, really cool stuff, and I'm very excited to talk about her this month.
Muppets Most Wanted.
That is, yep, and yet another one. She's done some, she's all over the place, and that's really exciting. And we're gonna start with, of course, as we told you last month, we're gonna start with Topsy Turvy, right? Right?
Right, yeah.
Turns out Topsy Turvy is a motherfucker to find. Did not know that when I mentioned last week that we would be doing it this week, and then we looked for it, and the only place I could find it was on Peacock with ads. And I'm sorry, I don't like the app Peacock; it's kind of crap, and I didn't want to watch with ads because it's already a very long movie. So sorry. I will try to watch it at some point for aware of they've been doing, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So we try to go still early-ish in her career, and we try to do something that would still kind of at least harken back to a period-ish film, and we went with Nickleby, mostly because it took place at the right time, and it had Charlie Hunnam in it, and we like Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's entertaining.
And I had heard of the movie before.
Yeah.
I knew that it existed.
Yeah, we were all aware that it existed. I remembered hearing good things about it. I heard it was a little Oscar baity, but that's okay. John, had you heard of it at all? Beyond, obviously, if you know the work it's based on. But the film, have you heard of?
No. I've seen the cover before and been like, oh, okay, pass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at. I'd kind of heard of it, and that's about it. And I gotta say, sitting on this side of things, I kind of wish I was still there. Wasn't the biggest fan of Nicholas Nickleby. About halfway through, I'm like, I don't think this movie has a fucking clue what it wants to be.
What did you think, John?
I was admittedly very bored throughout all of it.
Okay.
And I was
So
hoping
it
at
wasn't
some...
just us.
Yeah.
I think it
No,
was
as I-
about halfway through was that I'm like, I don't think this is a good movie.
It just didn't know what it wanted to be.
The movie's a goddamn mess.
It's based on Charles Dickens, which no one ever goes, that Charles Dickens, he writes great comedies.
Right?
Real knee slapper, that guy.
Yeah.
It's also like it's based on Charles Dickens, which means it's going to be real easy to adapt. Everything that Dickens ever wrote is the easiest thing to put
I
on
was
film.
looking at Wikipedia, and it said the book is 65 pages. The play is 8 hours, if I remember.
Wait, the book
correct.
is 65 pages?
Sorry, 65 chapters.
Okay. I'm like, how do you get an 8-hour play out of a 65-page book?
No,
That makes more sense.
65 chapters.
Okay.
And then I don't remember if I read it correctly, but it said 8. I swear it said 8 hours for the play. And then they were praising this movie on being able to get it all into one film. And I'm like, did they though? I really feel like we glossed over a lot of things.
Yeah, I feel like, and now I'm not a big Dickens guy. I've never been. I've tried to read his stuff before, and either it's just too dry for me or it's just too over my head. I'm not sure, but I'm not really well read on Dickens. So that said, my knowledge of this story is basically nil. So going into this thing blind, having not known the story, not knowing the source material, and really basically barely remembering that it's even a movie, this thing was a bitch to follow. Like I get the core film, but still, it's just like the ping-ponging back in tonality was just driving me nuts.
It was impossible for them to clarify why the uncle was so evil.
Oh, he's so evil.
Maniacal laugh. He's just evil. He's like literally like a Muppet evil. Like, what is going on?
You get Christopher Plummer to be evil, and you're like, but I don't believe it.
Yeah. It's just, oh man, it just, oof. Anyhow, so let's try to do a breakdown as best we can. Chewy, I feel like this one's far more for you than for me. I always try to do the first one of the month, but I don't know why. I just feel like you have this one.
Well, I chose this movie.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus. This was just a collective. But if you want to take the credit for this wonderful pick.
Well, Nicholas Nickleby Sr. is a delightful father who apparently is so good at being a dad, he's terrible at making money. And then his wife says, go... Well, what's the... Speculate? Which I translated to go make bets at Wall Street. That's what it sounded like. I'm like, I don't know what the speculating is. It sounds like you're just making bets on things. And then he lost all of his money, and then he died because I'm assuming suicide. They said he died of a broken heart, and I'm like...
Did they hint at... Didn't somebody say suicide?
No. Okay. They said they think he died of a broken heart.
Oh, you said suicide. You're like, so he killed him. Okay.
Because he goes to his room, and then they said, and then he died. I'm like, what do you do in that room?
Bam! And then he died.
People feel bad when they lose all of their money and leave their family destitute. But
sure.
They get to keep the house. And so then they try to go to their uncle to ask for help, and the uncle's like, I don't like any of you, but I'll do something.
The uncle's like, fuck you.
So he sends Nicholas Nickleby Jr. Off to work as a teacher at a really terrible boarding school. And then his mom and sister apparently turn into seamstresses, and the boarding school sucks, and it turns out that his yet-to-be-discovered cousin has been abandoned there. You figure that out near the end of the movie. And he beats up the headmaster, and he leaves all the other kids there, but he takes the one kid.
Fuck these kids.
Yeah. And the uncle gets real creepy with his niece. Charlie Hunnam comes back and goes, I don't like this. You guys are being jerks. Then he gets a job from a guy on the street. We never find out what that job is, but he's very happy to have that job. And then he starts buying paintings from Anne Hathaway because reasons.
Pausing you really quick. We just watched this movie a couple days ago. I had totally forgotten Anne Hathaway was in it. That's how quickly this movie's leaving my head.
But he's in love with Anne Hathaway because they just like the way each other look. And
they're not wrong. They're very attractive people.
Yeah.
He has to step in and stop evil uncle from making Anne Hathaway marry evil friend, and then they gang up on evil uncle because he made a bad speculation on something and is losing all of his money. And then you find out that he had been married and that the one kid is his son, and he was a terrible father who seemed to neglect his child, but then seemed really sad that his child was dead for some reason.
Yeah, you jumped over the Jamie Bell dying.
Yeah, but that just didn't seem very important. Because so much stuff happens that just doesn't seem that important, but it also is important. And then the movie ends when Christopher Plummer kills himself. And everyone's happy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I'm just like... there's so much being glossed over. Like, I feel like I need to be more invested in what's going on, but I have no details. There's literally a scene with Christopher Plummer and his evil friend evilly drinking booze in front of a fireplace laughing together. Like, how much more cartoonish can we get?
Oh my god. That's
not fair to cartoons. That's not fair to cartoons because those are specific.
Yeah, like... I think that's kind of like our guessing our biggest problem with this movie is just like I'm fine with a movie that's packed to the gills with content. Like, I'm fine with that. I fucking love Aquaman. Like, I'm fine with it. Just throw as much shit on the screen as you can, jam stories in, make it work.
But even that, I feel like Ocean Master gave more motivation to his evilness.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like, you can make multiple storylines that don't necessarily coincide. They might in like tonality, but they might, or like by subject matter, but they might not actually line up with each other very well. You can make that work in a movie. I have no problem with that. You can definitely make it work in a book. This movie, however, I think it just missed the mark entirely. And I think this one's going to be a real big victim of what we bring up a lot on our show, of they just did not try to adapt the book. They just try to throw the book at the screen and hope for the best. And man, it did not work for me. Like, this is one of the few movies that we've reviewed since turning over to Behind the Hype where, like, if I didn't have to do this for the podcast, I would have turned it off. And I think we've watched worse movies. I don't think it's the worst movie I've ever seen by any stretch. It's been a long time since I've watched a movie that just did not grab me in any way, shape, or form.
But the production design was really good.
Oh, I was going to save that for the back half because, like, I'll get to where, like, the look of the movie is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll save Eve for the end of this thing because she is the main focus point of this month. So, and she's far and away the best thing that's happened in this movie. So I just kind of want to spend a little bit more time reviewing the film itself before we kind of go on. And there's not really too much more to say, I don't think.
I think one of the reasons that it is not great is because your theory, if the people making the movie are having too much fun, the movie's not good. And I think everyone in this movie was having a great time.
Oh, yeah. And just for clarity's sake, it's Nick Friedman's theory, not mine. I just like to repeat it the most.
Nick Friedman's theory.
Yes.
Because all the actors look like they're having a great time.
Oh, my God. Like, I've always been a fan of Charlie Hunnam. Like, whenever I see him in something, I'm like, that might not be good, but he's going to be good in it.
Yeah.
Like, he always gives it his best, and I really appreciate that. As he does the most ridiculous movie after ridiculous movie. So the fact that he's always just showing up to play is great, and he definitely showed up here. There's just...
And he's, for a little bit, here and there, he's kind of dressed like a Babadook.
That's true.
When he's in complete black clothing, and he's got his itty-bitty little waist
Yep,
and his big, broad shoulders.
Yeah, maybe I would have liked the movie more if he'd just been a Babadook. But there was something kind of, like, frustrating about him in this movie. And I don't blame him, because I think he was doing the best he could with what the director gave him. But the whole... Like, I mentioned it before, and I'll keep bringing it up. The tonal shifts in this movie are just fucking bananas. Like, you have the scene with Jamie Bell, and I'm a big Jamie Bell fan. I've been a fan of him since Billy Elliot. The kid's an amazing actor. A guy is an amazing actor. And he does a great job in this. But his character gets consumption at a certain point, and...
Really fast.
Really fast. Just boom, you have consumption.
He's dying.
Boom, you're dying. Boom, you're dead.
Don't expect him to bring back from your childhood home. Make sure to bury him next to your dad.
Yeah, and, like, it's just... The whole sequence is so fast, and it's trying to be like look at these two friends' final days together, and they're having fun, and they're spending time dragging furniture around fields for some reason. Because that's what they do in all period films. Who would drag that couch out there?
Because in England, it never rains, so bring upholstery out into the elements makes total sense.
All of England is known for its lack of rain.
It is a very dry country.
Yes, I'd like to go back home to the dry country.
But yeah, so you have all these like sequences, and the movie before this, I was probably like, I'm giving this thing like a 2 out of 5. And then it got to the scenes with Jamie Bell and consumption. I'm like, nope, we're down to 0. Like, I'm out. I am so out. And it's mostly because of that. You see them kind of laughing, having a good time. Oh, my best friend and I. And then 2 seconds later, I'm dying, and everyone's just sobbing. And then we're laughing, and then we're sobbing. And then we're laughing, and then we're sobbing. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
And then in the middle of that, somewhere is like, I see the one I fear the most up in the trees.
And that really goes nowhere.
Yeah.
You never get a good idea of who he is.
No, he kind of just comes around a corner later in the movie. He's like, I looked for him and I found him.
He's like a skulky guy just waiting to do some exposition.
Yeah.
But then never explaining what his role towards the uncle was.
Yeah, he was like an exposition hand grenade that when it went off, it was a dud.
Yeah.
It's just
Like, were you an employee? Were you
Yeah.
a friend? A coworker?
He was the guy looking for Jamie Bell.
But he wasn't actually looking for him.
Yeah, he was.
For that one moment.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, he was like, I have information you might want.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, he's like, I don't understand who the fuck he was. This is why I had that problem that I was saying earlier. If we didn't read the book, like, you're fucking lost.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there's more that we didn't get, and he shows up, and then it's like, okay, he seems like a weird character with no development, nothing to get us attached to him, and he's gone for the rest of the movie until this end part. And I'm like, who was this weird guy again in the tree? Oh, him. What's he supposed to do again? And like, I was asking that instead of actually watching the movie.
Yeah, just trying to figure out like where these loose threads were coming from, and it's like fucking nowhere, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, where are they going? Nowhere. I just have a loose piece of thread here. Would you like to hold it?
like his crazy assistant, who's constantly talking about how he used to be a gentleman until he became associated with the uncle. And I'm like, okay, well, what did he do to you? We're never going to address that?
Nope, never gonna address it. And why does the uncle keep you hired?
Yeah, why
You're
does
such a dick to him.
You are a terrible assistant. You openly mock your boss.
This movie just left me flustered pretty much at every turn. I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think it deserves the good reviews that it has, and I really feel bad if we're shitting all over one of your favorite movies. But this was just a big miss for me.
I just think the Brits really enjoyed making it.
I think everyone had a great time, but by and large, I think the person who had the best time is the person who did the best job in the movie, and that easily, in my book, is the production designer. She fucking crushed this movie. Like, there are a lot of actors, like I'm looking, Choose has the IMDb up right now. Like, I forgot Alan Cumming is in this thing for a little bit. He was great.
He just do his Scottish flair?
Yeah.
Or something?
And that was Nathan Lane was in it as Nathan Lane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he just played himself.
Yeah.
That's all Nathan Lane does.
Yeah, he's a time traveler, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
he's in all times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was basically playing the same character from The Birdcage, which is Timon from Lion King. You know, it's all the same person.
Right.
But yeah, I thought a lot of the supporting cast was great. I thought a lot of them were great. But the only person I thought they did a good job. The only person who did a great job, in my opinion, is a production designer. And I thought every scene in the movie, including the ridiculous scenes with the furniture in the fields, which I'm never going to understand, and it's always going to annoy me, but even those looked good. But I'll let Chewie talk a little bit more about it, since that is far more her wheelhouse than mine.
I mean, there's just a lot of detail in this movie. Because each set specifically has its own flavor. One of the kind of heavy-handed but still very appreciated, because it was totally thought through, was the fact that the uncle's office or whatever, living room, is filled with dead birds.
Now, really quickly before you actually make this sound good, is it bad that his office reminded me of the bad guy from Ace Ventura 2?
No, it's fine. That's just because of the tusks, I'm sure. The tusks, which always were around people while they were experiencing something that was about to happen to them.
Yeah.
So they were in the middle of the tusks, and they're in the mouth of the villain. And then at the very end, you get these really big close-ups onto Christopher Plummer as apparently his life is being torn apart, and it makes it look like he's in a bird cage, like he's a caged bird. So that's, symbolism right there. And the very beautiful moments was like after Charlie and Belle, it's Belle, right? The Smike.
Jamie Bell.
Are talking to each other in the middle of the night, and you have this beautiful dream sequence, essentially, where you can barely see them. You're just like essentially seeing their profiles with the moonlight, and they're talking to each other in front of two matching windows with the stars behind them and everything. It's just freaking gorgeous. Like, there's very beautiful vignettes in this film. Even like the boarding school, with how they have grossly like It's not carved and it's not drawn. It almost looks like the walls are covered in filth and they just washed lettering into the walls.
Yeah.
To have like these grand statements about God, to essentially, you know, what people like to do sometimes is just instill fear into your subjects by hearkening God's name, which is all they do at that boarding school, is just terrorize those poor boys. And then you go into the Squeeze. I forgot their name. The family.
Squeers.
Squeers, yeah.
And their living area is quite, you know, nice for what they are. They have a lot of food, they have color, they have fabric, they're warm. Completely different for the boys in their school, which is just empty and cold and dark and terrible.
Yeah. Now, just for a second, just to talk about the movie itself, do you think the people at the boarding school thought they were doing a good job? Do you think they thought they were helping the boys?
No.
Okay.
No, they're clearly just using them as income.
That's what I thought too. I didn't know. I wanted to see if it was one of those things where
I
it's
don't
like...
think they actually cared if they were getting an education. I think they were just doing it.
Got it.
Yeah, no. they didn't
That's
care.
kind of what I figured too. But you know, some movies have that, like, no, I'm teaching them to fear God, and that's how they'll be good Christians. And I just didn't know if
I don't think they even cared about religion. They just happened to use some of it on their walls.
Fair enough.
For control.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I was just curious at what
Yeah.
your take was on it.
And then London itself isn't really much of a character. You don't really see the city. You just see people's living spaces.
You more so get like their neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
you get the idea that they
Their
all kind of live
little
near each
neighborhood.
other. Yeah.
And then one of the other vignette moments that really struck out to me was when you got into the rival accountant's office, I guess. When you had You Never Trust
Oh, Timothy Spall.
Timothy Spall.
Although you can trust him in this movie.
Him and his brother, who are like twins but not twins. And you have the really fun moment when Hunnam is at his desk and you see them talking to each other through two different doorways, and they're mirrors of each other. Like, I thought that was... It almost had a similar feeling to Wes Anderson a couple times in the
I
film.
can see that, yeah.
But
Yeah.
a more, like, less... How do I say? Not obvious.
A little bit more subdued.
Subdued.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you want to have good production design, but you don't want the production design to be quite the massive character it is in Wes Anderson movies. Because
Yeah, it didn't feel like
in Wes
too
Anderson
much.
movies, the production design is its own character.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the only character that carries over from every film.
Yeah. Because with this movie, Eve she created character for the film, but it never overshadowed the actors per se. On Wikipedia, it said that she requested to change the time period to more during the Industrial Revolution for this film, which I didn't really get a feeling for, I'll admit, because I don't really see any of them interact with machinery or anything. So maybe it just had to do with what design was in buildings at the time, and I'm not familiar enough with it to notice.
Now, just for those for people out there who aren't fully attuned to the film industry, for production designers who basically design everything that you see on set, or like kind of have a final say,
Well,
the
they
department
create-
head of the look.
Yeah, they create a cohesive idea of the look of the film
So-
while dictating to other departments.
Do production designers often hire costumers?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But they
That-
do work with them.
That was going to be the only reason why I would have asked, is that why she wanted to shift it? Like, would the tones on the colorers or that sort of stuff of the wardrobe from that era match her sets better if they set it in that tone so she
Yeah,
could
I
actually make those two
I don't know.
coincide? That's the rabbit hole I was going down, but like my film industry my film world has never been in your world, really at
Yeah.
all. So it's kind of a blank spot. Why I'm letting you run this part.
All I know is whenever I've been a production designer, I've never hired costumes.
Fair
But
enough.
that was on smaller productions. I'm assuming they also don't do it on larger ones.
I mean, it would make sense. I was just kind of curious because I mean, they do have to go hand in hand so much. Is there any other major things in this this film production design wise that stood out? talked about the
listed the ones that really stuck out to me. You don't really spend any time in their cottage house. That's all mostly exteriors. So that's the juxtaposition there, I suppose, between the city, which is mostly inside because you don't want to be outside.
Right.
And then the country, which is just so beautiful and airy. So you pull your furniture out into the damp English air.
I don't have a good reason for why it annoys the shit out of me. But ever since I was a kid, I'm like, who would drag their couch outside? Just get a blanket.
Although we would think it's missing if it wasn't in this movie, though. Like, a movie like this that's doing all this stuff is going to have a couch out in the countryside somewhere.
You're not wrong. I'm still going to be annoyed at it. If it wasn't there, I'd be annoyed that I wasn't annoyed that it was there. Did that make sense? I'm sure it did.
I followed somewhat.
The only other thing that I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on, because we're really beating the hell out of this movie, I kind of wanted to talk about the direction of it, because with a production designer like this who does such a good job, and you have actors who do such a good job, you have to give the director just a little bit of credit, because everyone was doing the best job they could. I think they just went way too they set their heights or their goals way too high, because it feels like the goal was to capture 100% of the book.
And be a fun romp in the theater.
Yeah,
We don't want to make our audience sad.
Yeah, we don't want to depress people too much, although this movie does have somebody die of consumption, and they all celebrated a suicide at the end. So, it is kind of a dark story.
And an uncle who puts his niece in the line of potentially being raped more than once.
Oh, yeah, it's not even like potential. He assumes she's going to get raped, and he's just fine with it, and is a little disappointed that it doesn't happen. This movie just has some really fucked up things in it, and it's not very good. So, but either way,
yeah, and they try to give it this bouncy, bubbly kind of like, oh, this is a period piece, ooh, funny kind of feel, and it's so weird. It bothered me throughout the whole thing. I was like, this is some dark stuff. Why is it so like lighthearted?
Yeah, it just doesn't work. John, did you read Ebert's review for this one by any chance?
No, but I might have to go do that after this.
I mean, given how Ebert reviewed our last film of fucking Superstar, where he was just like seething with rage and hatred of the movie, and this one's like, the movie's exploding with life, and I just loved it. I'm like, exploding with life? Fucking people die all the time in the movie. What are you talking about? A dude dies of consumption.
I mean, the
after sitting on a couch outside.
Yeah.
Douglas McGrath didn't really go on to do too much. He only has 8 directing credits. This is his 3rd film. His breakout one was Emma with Gwyneth Paltrow,
which is actually I haven't seen it since it came out, but when it came out, it was decent. I remember it was 10.
That's also a period film where they're trying to be, cutesy about it.
Yeah.
So he liked doing the cutesy period thing.
But I just don't think he could fully nail down what he had to do.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, his directing career went far better than mine ever did, so.
Well, what's interesting to note here is, like, this movie, for me, there was a few moments where I was like, I would want to see the movie that they've jumped into here.
Yeah.
At various points. Like, when they got with the theater troupe, I was like, given how bubbly the whole movie's been despite the darkness, the theater troupe seems to be where the rest of the movie should go, and I kind of thought that's where it was going to go. They fall in line with them, and the drama becomes tied to the play somehow. It's like, oh, cool.
That he was there for a while, but then it didn't feel like it.
Yeah, and then he just fucking left. And I'm like, why would you just leave? Your sister said she was in trouble. Go help your sister, and then come back. You clearly love this.
Yeah.
Go back to the most interesting part of this movie. God damn
it. It was the most interesting part. And it is like a new family for him that are supportive of each other.
Yeah, I was glad they came back at the end. Like, that made sense. Like, there's no reason they had to be completely written out of your life. Whatever. All right, yeah, but I do wanted to say, I think the director did a pretty decent job. I just don't think his movie turned out, which is unfortunate. Well, that would lead us to the next part of our show, which is usually quotes. I didn't think this movie was overly quotable, so I didn't write one down. You guys cool with doing favorite parts this week?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, favorite parts. All right, Chewie, why don't you go first? You've been leading the charge on this one.
Well, my favorite part, I guess, would be that even though his sister barely got a role in this movie, when she tells her uncle off about how she has self-respect and she will not let him degrade her, that was a good speech.
It's a good speech.
She delivered that very well. Like, it was well acted, it was well written, it was well shot. I thought that was a very good moment in the movie where they allowed it to be what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for another one of those sort of moments where it does revolve around the sister again. And it's just like, it's kind of like what John said a little bit ago, where like every now and then you start queuing into a movie of like, oh, I want to watch this movie. Why is it not this movie? Like, you just have this like, man, there are so many parts of this movie that work fantastically. I just wish they worked together. It's like a whole bunch of different off-brand Legos. These don't click. My favorite part, however, was there was a moment where the sister is about to get victimized, and she says to the guy, I wish my brother was here because he'd
get you.
Yeah, he'd show you what's what. And later on, when he has come back, the brother, Charlie Hunnam, has come back to London, and he's sitting in a pub with Jamie Bell, and he's overhearing these two guys talk about this girl, and he's like, oh, and she thought that if her brother was here, he'd show me what. Ha, 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 ha. I'll mess her up later. Aren't I funny? And Charlie Hunnam's like, no, I'm her brother, and I'm going to fuck you up now. And it's just such a great moment of like, you moron.
And again, he happened to go to this bar because the uncle's assistant told him to.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be at the moment that this asshole was there.
That this asshole was there and bragging about how he's so excited to rape a girl. Like,
yeah.
I don't like that character. I don't like that plot line. I don't like anything. This movie makes me grumpy. John, favorite moment?
We briefly talked about it during the production design element from the Cheerable brothers when they arrive and they come in and they do like that mirror image thing. That scene, like the way the movie was styled there and how, like Chewie said before, it was very subdued. That was where I was most invested in the movie. Like, if the movie had been that all the way through, just subdued, quirky, and kind of rough, like took out all those other things that didn't quite work and focused on that, like that was like the high point, the high hopeful point for me in the movie, where I was looking up from my phone. Like, I wasn't as distracted with the movie. And I think that by that nature, which is almost a critique, that's my favorite part of the movie.
I would venture to say, though, not to disagree with you, but I would say that tone is the one that they were striving for throughout the majority of the movie. And I think the scenes with Timothy Spall are just where they finally pulled it off.
Yeah. No, I think they didn't quite get it then.
The whole time I was hung up on, what do they do?
Oh, yeah. That didn't make any sense.
What is your job? You don't answer that.
Nope, they don't.
It's like in Flash. How do you guys make money?
Well, they work at Star Labs.
What do they do?
Well, they help the Flash.
How do they make money?
They work at Star Labs.
Yeah.
We can go all day.
Totally sound. Makes complete sense to me.
We didn't really talk much about Timothy Spall. Chewie did mention my one thing of don't ever trust Timothy Spall.
And I was like, at least he's not a rat.
I mean, he does every now and then play good guys. I mean, he played Churchill, I think, in Doctor Who, was it? Or was it King's Speech he played Churchill?
I don't
He played Churchill once, and I was like, oh, he's not bad. He can be. He's a great actor.
Some people would say Churchill was a terrible person.
No, I'm saying Timothy Spall is a good actor.
Oh.
He's a great actor. He usually plays characters I'm like, don't trust him. It's Timothy Spall. All right. Double features. It's going to be a little rough this week because that means you'd have to watch this one again. I have mine locked and loaded. As soon as we got about halfway through the movie, I'm like, I know what I'd do this with. Do either one of you have yours ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, what are you going? Please don't take mine. I'm so proud of mine.
I don't know what yours is.
I want you to go first. I want to capture my disappointment in case you take it.
A Knight's Tale?
Oh, good. You didn't take it. We are in the same.
Because A Knight's Tale was able to capture their funny-go-lucky kind of modern feel really well. And for the longest time, I thought Heath Ledger starred in this movie. Because I thought it was him on the poster. And then it turned out to be Charlie Hunnam.
In the movie, I don't see it at all. On the poster, looking at it, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from.
I think it's because of the movie Casanova.
Yeah, sure.
They maybe had a similar poster. I don't know.
And it's like the sort of longish, sort of shaggy-ish blonde hair.
When they were younger, they looked a lot alike.
Yeah, definitely. Mine, I'm going kind of in the same vein, but I think it's mostly like if you want to do period and quirky, you do it like this. So you'd watch this movie first to learn how not to do it, and then you watch The Favorite.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, but I already said that with Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
But no, The Favorite also works very well.
Yeah.
And has very serious moments done
Very,
well.
very serious moments done well, and funny moments done well.
Yeah.
That movie is a fucking masterpiece. I love The Favorite.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
I'm maybe not gonna do quite the same thing where you go with one movie and then how it should have been. I'm just gonna go with these movies are on the same level of boredom for me, and if you like this sort of genre movie, you'll be fine. It's this one, and then the one we actually reviewed before with Scarlett Johansson, the girl with the pearl earring.
Okay.
Both those together, they take up time that a double feature would have to take up, and you got costume designs and production
They're
designs.
visually appealing.
Visually
Yeah.
gorgeous movies.
Yeah. But, you'll be looking at your watch through them, if you're me.
John, you've been doing the best during these double features of making double features that I cannot wait to not buy a ticket for.
God.
I am so excited to not go to your double
I would
features.
be like, yeah, you can put those on. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on
Well,
down
hey,
to the new Bev. We're going to do what?
You know what,
You're
though?
going to do
You know what?
No, I'm good.
For people who have insomnia or have trouble sleeping, this might actually be their salvation. Put it like a double feature starting at 11 o'clock for the first one, and then
There you
just go on for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do pride myself that no one in their right mind would go to my double features.
I mean, no one's going to end these double features. That's to watch fucking Nickleby again. No.
You know what? It could have been good.
A lot of movies. Every movie could have been good. Battlefield. No, never mind.
Do this movie with Battlefield Earth. Clearly, they would meld together.
That's what I should have gone with. Like, do this one, then Speed Racer. let's just fuck with your head. Oh man. All right. So we have finished the first week of Eve Stewart month. So far, so good on the production design. Hopefully next week will be a little bit better with the movies, but that is not up to me.
Not up to you.
Which one of you did I say is going first? It's Chewy, right?
Well, I thought I was going after John.
Oh, John's going first? Okay. John, what is the
as far
next
as
Eve Stewart movie that we will be watching?
let's go with, since I'm most curious and want to see it, let's try to do that Cure for Wellness.
Mmm.
If you haven't seen it yet, that'll be fun.
Oh.
I missed it when it came out in the theaters.
To buy it. I'm a big fan of this movie. It is it strikes a perfect chord with me with like a genre that you don't get to see very often. Although you did get like two of them like right back to back, but we'll get into that next week when we talk about A Cure for Wellness. I am excited for next week. Not a lot of people saw this movie. Not a lot of people liked this movie, but Chewy and I did. We both saw it and liked it.
And I'm very curious, so that'll be
The
interesting.
movie I want to choose is The Lovely.
DeLovely.
The Lovely, because I like Cole Porter American classic music.
I really hope that DeLovely is much easier to find than Topsy Turvy.
I mean, hopefully.
Let's take a look real quick. We can. We're good. We're
Watch
good.
it with Epics.
Yep, we're good. We're good.
But yeah, The Lovely.
All right,
I know the soundtrack because it was on rotation when I worked at Barnes & Noble. So I listened to the soundtrack a whole bunch. I have not seen the movie.
nominated for 2 Golden Globes, according
Ooh.
to IMDb.
Yay.
Not that great of reviews, but that's okay.
It's Kevin Kline, Ashley Judd, and Jonathan Pryce. We're going to have fun.
I'm in. I like it. And then, the last week of the month, oh boy.
I wonder what Brian's going to choose.
Cats! Hooray for Cats! I'm so excited.
Way to let the mystery play out.
So excited to have a reason to watch it again, because Corin's not that interested in watching it anymore, so I haven't been able to watch it in like 6 months now. It's been a long time since I've seen Cats, and Cats is such a good movie.
Cats.
I am going to reach out to old friend of the show, old co-host of the show, Samantha Garrison, and see if we can get her on for that week. But she is no longer in the same time zone as us, so that might be a little difficult, but we are going to try. We'll see if it works. So, yeah. So we have our whole month lined out. Sounds pretty good to me. I am excited to see all of these movies. I'm hoping we got the bad one out of the way. I think we did.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Let's do a very quick round of plugs, and then we can say goodbye. For this show and every show at the ATH Network, check out athpod.com. Also, be sure to start following us on Instagram. We now have a new Instagram for this show, Behind the Hype Pod. There's not really much on there right now. It's probably just this episode that you're currently listening to, but we're going to start peppering in like photos and stuff of Eve Stewart throughout the month, and we're going to use that as our main celebration area for the person of the month or entity of the month if we do another month like Saturday Night Live. And that's where you can see everything that we'll be doing with them throughout our celebration. Chewy, what you plugging?
Superstore.
Superstore.
Watch Superstore.
John, what you plugging?
Demon Days, that podcast I do on our network every week, every
Woo!
Wednesday, that you narrate the beginning and end of. And yeah, you are our Nathan Lane. So everyone, check it out.
Try to do Nathan Lane's voice.
I can't. I'm not. Don't make me do the Saturday Night Live voice again. I can't do impressions.
But you do make an impression on our hearts.
Oh, that's the best place to say goodbye. Goodbye?
Bye.
Goodbye? Goodbye?
See you later, bozos.